YouTube is going. Let's see about Instagram. Okay, Facebook. All right, so everybody's connected. Let me just hit the right things here. Okay, go live, go live. Okay, let me just, all right, YouTube's good. Okay, all right. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live. I know. I'm a couple minutes late. Sorry about that. Uh, did not expect to have to kick my fuzzy little coworker out of my chair. Um, and then I had to, of course, relocate her to another warm location. So she delayed me by a few minutes. You know, these coworkers. I love my coworkers, my human ones and my fuzzy ones, but sometimes it just life is just like that. So, but we're here and we're live. I know it's really cold in some parts of the world. It is colder than it has been in my little part of the world, but it's still not super cold here. We did get snow today. It didn't accumulate, and there's very little of it left. I have skylights on my porch, and I have at least one of the skylights is covered by snow still, but I think everything else I have is melted. I'm assuming that's a little colder because it's glass, so I'm assuming it will melt too. And then it might get a little icky tonight, but tomorrow it's going to be in the 40s. So um, it looked very pretty. It looked like a Christmas village when I woke up. All the houses around me had snow on the roofs, and the grass was kind of dusted. We always had We've had a lot of Christmas villages over the years, and it reminded me of the Christmas villages. I hope your house is starting to look a bit festive for the holidays. They are, we can't quite say coming in hot yet, but they are definitely creeping up. Let's see, I have my tree up. All my presents are ordered. Um, I've been looking at people who have holiday elves and some of the mischief the elves have been getting into. They've been making me laugh. Um, and there was a whole lot going on with travel last week because it was Black Friday. Viking still has a deal. They have a deal through the rest of the month. Remember, they are adults only. And they do a lot of, I don't want to call them culture cruises, but it's not like a quite the same as a do your own thing. For example, if you're um, visiting a town in Germany, and I'm just making this up totally off the top of my head, um, you would, if they have a signature dish in that town, you might have a cooking class about that dish the day before you are in that town so that when you eat it there locally and have it prepared by local people for you, you truly appreciate it and you know more about it. So there's usually cooking lessons and some history discussions and stuff that go on board the ship during the cruise that connect to places you're going to visit. Um, One of my cats is currently howling. I'm hoping you can't hear him because um, I don't know. They've been howling more lately. I'm not sure. I think they're talking to each other because it's quieter in my house than it used to be, but I haven't quite figured it out yet. They both seem fine. They're eating, they're sleeping, they're doing all their normal cat stuff. They just seem to howl at each other randomly now, and I can't quite figure it out. So it's a holiday mystery. Um, I got my tree up well, I've had it up, but we actually decorated last week. I do have wrapping to do. Wrapping is probably one of my less favorite tasks. My mother used to wrap beautifully. She doesn't, with her memory issues, she doesn't do it so well anymore, but she used to make, have the kind of presents that you would want to photograph, want to put in a magazine ad or something, and she doesn't do that anymore. Mine look more like a first grader wrapped them. I do not have tight corners. I usually have too much gift wrap in one place and not quite enough in another. Um, I'm the kind of person that should really use gift bags instead of wrap, but I don't have many presents to wrap this year, so I'll wrap the ones I have and do the best I can with them, and that will be that. I tried to get my mother to teach me some of her tricks last year, but her memory was already starting to fade a little bit, so it did not go very well. But I did give it the old college try. So let's talk about, since there's not a lot as far as deals and stuff out there. Now, of course, there are things for the spring. Disneyland, Disney World, Disney Cruise Line, all of those have deals for the spring. There's a Disney Visa card offer, there's the Disney Plus offer. There is stuff out there, but there's just not a lot new. So I'm not saying there's nothing out there, because there is. But I don't have any new offers to report on. So let's talk about when you go somewhere and it's cold. Some years when I do my Florida trip, which, as you know, I do every year in December. Some years we're in shorts and t-shirts. Some years we're in sweatshirts and long pants. And some years we're in between. I had clients who went to Disney World for Thanksgiving. They were Florida residents, but they trekked across the state to go to Disney World for 5 days with their mom. It was three adult couples and mom, and mom had a blast. I got pictures every day. I think the highlight of her trip was meeting Chewbacca. They did a photo pass shot with the whole family with Chewbacca, and they sent me that. They had an awesome, awesome trip. But she said to me mid trip, "Wow, it got really cold today." Um, and I think when you go somewhere warm, you just don't expect that. You're not quite prepared for it. So I'm going to give you a couple tips for things I've learned over the past couple years as we've gone in more and more cold weather. My first tip is take layers. You probably don't need the really heavy, heavy sweatshirt until till after dark. So during the day, take layers. Wear your long sleeve shirt, but put your zip up hoodie over it, so that if it gets warm enough, you can take the hoodie off for a bit. Um, Extra socks. We're not, I find when it's cold out, my feet are one of the first things that get cold. So take some extra socks. Just a pair or two. They don't take up much room in your suitcase. Just a pair or two, and stick them in your bag. Put an extra, even if you're headed into the parks. Put an extra pair in your park bag. And that way, if your feet get cold, you can slip into the restroom or find a quiet, out of the way spot and sit down and put that extra layer on your feet. Um, your extremities. We talked about keeping your feet warm. Make sure you take stuff with pockets so that when your hands get cold, you can put your hands in your pockets. It's harder with your face unless you really want to go the full route and do like a scarf, which you can do. They usually have scarves in some of the larger shops. World of Disney usually has them, and usually the big shop at the front of each park. In Magic Kingdom, it would be the Emporium. In Epcot, it used to be Mouse Gears, but Mouse Gears is gone, and I'm trying to remember. Probably Connections. The Connections Marketplace might be a good one for that. That seems to be where their big shop has moved to. Um, Hollywood Studios, you're going to look in the shops on Sunset Boulevard, just like you're going to look on Main Street in Magic Kingdom. Um, and of course, if you're in downtown Disney is Disneyland. Disney Springs is Walt Disney World. World of Disney in either of those locations is going to have your best selection. If you are in Disney World in Disney Springs, you might also be able to find some stuff in the co-op. I find the co-op has some neat, unusual things. And of course, you can always check the store at your resort. They should have some, if you're there and you're in shorts and, short sleeve t-shirts and tank tops and shorts, they should have long sleeve tops. Swimwear is also a good thing to find in your resort shops. I made the mistake of forgetting mine one year and thinking that the parks would have it, and even the water parks, and they don't have it. It's at the resorts. But there are, of course, long sleeve t-shirts. There's usually socks. You can usually find hats and gloves, swimwear. It's also a great place for first aid. I've gone into the shop and gotten Benadryl. I've gotten pain meds. I've gotten alcohol prep pads and safety pins to pop the blisters on my feet. Not pleasant, but it's a necessary evil. And I've also gotten, there's cold remedies. There's usually sore throat stuff. There's cough drops. There's Band-Aids. There's a display of all that stuff. that you might need. I've seen heartburn medication. I've seen, I'm trying to think of some of the other stuff I've seen, even though I don't use a contact lens solution. I wore contacts for years, but I had LASIK about a decade ago. So I understand all the contact lens stuff. I just don't do it anymore. I've also seen eyeglass repair kits. How many times has the screw fallen out of your sunglasses or your reading glasses or your I need these to see where I'm going and what I'm doing with my life glasses? All those. Um, you can find all that stuff in the shop too. Um, some of the shops have alcohol. I think they all do, but I have not been in all of them to check. Most of the ones I've been in do have an alcohol section, so if you're, kipping in early because like not last year, but the year before when we went, we got a torrential, terrible downpour. We canceled Jollywood nights. We went to Disney Springs. We got absolutely soaked. So we walked back to Saratoga Springs where we were staying and took hot showers and got into dry clothes. And then we went to the restaurant in our resort and got dinner and stopped into the store. So if you're having a night like that and you think you might want some wine for your movie watching, that's what we did. Is we went back to the room and watched a Christmas movie because it was December. But if you think you want some wine for that, there is usually some alcohol in the shop. Um, Other stuff you can find at the resort. If you forget something like a phone charger, that kind of stuff, ask at the front desk. Almost every hotel I've stayed at has a drawer of various cables people have left behind. So ask at the front desk. There is some tech stuff in the resort shops, but ask at the front desk. They might have just what you need. You can borrow it. You can, drop it off before you check out and leave it for the next person. Um, a lot of the hotels also have deodorant and toothbrushes and some of those other necessities that you might forget. They may not always have them, but it's usually worth asking. Unless, of course, you would prefer to just buy one and keep it in your bag, not unpack it when you get home, which is something else you could do. Um, okay, hopefully, I've given you a little travel insight and a little bit of merriment for your Friday afternoon. I will be back next Friday, as close to 4 as possible. In the meantime, stay merry, stay bright, stay warm, stay well, and I will see you next Friday. Have a great week ahead. Bye.